I have a service dog, but since having a service dog, I see all sorts of new reasons why service dogs are wonderful. And we have our first question from Tina S. What was the hardest thing for me to learn about working with having a service dog? Well, that's a tough one. There are a number of the fact that everything takes longer because I'm constantly stopped by people saying, what a beautiful dog. Where anything from they're always saying how handsome he is, the wows and the he looks like a horse, or but there's people that will stop too. So I think the hardest thing is probably that everything takes longer because I'm connecting with so many more people. And probably the part about the diagnosis, so you can't be shy about your diagnosis if you've got this giant dog next to you. So those are probably two of the things that I adjusted to. I adjust to daily. From Rock City, North Carolina. My favorite place to go that my service dog assists you in getting to. That depends on the time of day, whether my meds are working. With Parkinson's, the medicine can wave in off and on times, and so it can be who got me to the bathroom, or it could be we're walking down the street and having a pleasant day outside. Probably on a regular basis, it's the fact that I can get out more. I can trust that that I'm, even if my meds do sort of poop out on me, that I'm going to get through the grocery store or the errand that I'm doing because I've got him with me. From Lurkaloo, North Colorado. I think that's what the CO is. How did we learn about SDP? And can you tell us about how you and Sir Thomas were matched? I do a lot of presentations for the American Parkinson's Disease Association. And in some of my presentations, there were people who would come in with service dogs. And there was the first one I saw was a little Boston Terrier. He's Brady. He's a great little dog. And he was trained to pick up keys, pick up things, and turn on lights and such for his handler. And then one day I was at a yoga demonstration, and this woman walked in, and this just beautiful all black regal dog comes in and sort of in that sphinx way just collapsed down, and he was so quiet, and I was just awed by it. In the back of my mind I had this put that on the back burner in case I need that. And little did I know they were right around the corner for me. So that's how it sort of started. I ran into someone who had one. And it was a wonderful thing for her because she never went out at all. She would freeze, and the Parkinson's kind of freeze where you can't move your feet off the ground. And so she didn't go out at all. And her dog keeps her from freezing. He propels her forward. I think he sort of nudges her heels. And she's out and about all the time now. From AJ in New York, have you ever been turned away from anywhere because of your service dog? What was your initial reaction? I have had people say, probably because they're trained to, no dogs allowed in the grocery store. And the most common ones are the sort of cafes or the smaller places where they're worried about health board. But my comment is usually it's a service dog, and then I keep walking. So no one has ever actually confronted me. I did run into a situation where I was staying overnight at a small hotel, and had made reservations ahead. I had told them I have a service dog, and when I got there, I was exhausted because it was should have been a 4-hour drive, and it was a 7-hour drive because of traffic and getting lost, and I was exhausted. And the gentleman asked for certification of my service dog, and that is not something that legally they can ask for. But I just decided, I'm too exhausted, and so that one was a little disconcerting because I didn't want to give them the certification because that's not something that we're legally supposed to have to do according to the ADA, but I was so tired. So, from Pom Pom, Georgia. What do you do when people insist on petting your service dog? Oh, I've done all sorts of things. I think initially I was very polite. I've had Tommy for 2 years now. He's been here, and I probably for the first 6 months I would be, going through the grocery store. Excuse me, excuse me. And now I'm just like, this is the size I am now. I'm the size of me and my dog. If you don't like it, get out of the way. And if he's very good about staying, especially in the grocery store. He's a really good shopper. He's really good about not sort of looking for pets, but if people aren't gonna like give us a little space and his nose brushes by him, I'm okay with that. But when people insist on, I've done everything from please ask. Had one gentleman at a school. My son was give a band recital, and he was about 5th grade, and so Tommy got through all the clashing cymbals and trombones out of tune, and so afterwards we were sort of in the hallway and it's very crowded, and I was at that moment when pills were not really working too well, so I was kind of really relying on Tommy, and there was a gentleman with a video camera up to his face, sort of lunging towards Tommy, and that's very scary to the dog to have something covering the face, let alone have something lunging at him. So I was saying, excuse me, he's working right now. And Tommy's very sensitive to my tone of voice, so I try not to be too loud. He kept lunging. Tommy kept getting to it. Finally, I just screamed, "Back off!" So I've been, like I said, everything from cordial to not so cordial. From Judy. Find you are quite talented as an artist. Thank you. Not to mention your hobbies and yoga business. Were these activities always a priority, or has Sir Thomas just provided the extra freedom to continue these pursuits? What a nice question. That's sweet. If anyone doesn't know, I'm a crier, so I have my whole box of Kleenex here. Tommy's a sleeper and a snorer. He may start snoring soon. I think that to answer that, he has given me the opportunity to sort of get out there and go to exhibits because I'm not worried about getting around. Yoga, he loves yoga. It's like going to yoga and he gets all perked up because that means he gets to sleep in the car as we drive to yoga, and then we get to yoga and he gets to sleep at yoga. So he loves yoga class. So he has gotten me out of, I can be fine sort of all through class, and then everyone leaves and I'm cleaning up and my medication might stop, and he's gotten me sort of through the cleaning everything up, and I'd like to teach him how to roll up a yoga mat, but I haven't done that yet. So he's probably allowed me to continue these pursuits. From Karen. I know you and Lynn spoke with the Innkeepers Association today. What did you advise regarding fraud, and how do you spot it, and how do you deal with it? Ooh, if I could answer that one, in full, we wouldn't have an issue, but it's actually very interesting. Today there was more controversy. We've been presenting to a variety of populations and advocating for service dogs and service dog access. We presented to the police academy. It was an association of police chiefs, and they were very. I've never been in a room full of so much brass and hardware, but they were very open, and they didn't know a lot of this, so it was very helpful to give them all the information. We presented to college, a local college. We're presenting to doctors and therapists. And today it was probably the most controversial. People were very, well, how do we know the dog is a fraud, and why do we have to let, some of the questions were, why do we have to let a dog in if it's our home that is the sort of the inn or the B&B. So it was good information to share with them, because in the end they sort of saw that they have rights as well. What it means to turn away someone with a service dog is really all about discrimination. So it was a very good start. That's just one sort of small town and small county in one state, but we're getting there. And from that, actually, one of the gentlemen who worked there runs a business for a whole bunch of Marriotts. So he thought when they get together, that it might be good to sort of have something at their annual meeting. So we're getting the word out there slowly. Dealing with fraud that's a continuing battle, but I think that the more we educate, power is knowledge, and so knowledge is power. So I get that backwards. And so we get the information out there, and people are maybe more likely to step up to the plate. So that's our hope. Who's next? Tuppy Cat. How did we get involved in speaking up for the rights of people with service dogs? It sort of stumbled into it, quite literally. If I didn't have a service dog, I probably would be one of those people that didn't know a whole lot about service dogs. And I would not be the person lunging at one with a camera in my face, but I would have at least known to back off and leave them to do their jobs, but I wouldn't know sort of what I have to know. So I think it's sort of getting the word out for what I've experienced to people who, might not have experienced it, but there's more and more people out there with service dogs, and, it's, just seems like it needs to be done. So, from Mary, have you found Sir Thomas surprises you with things you didn't know he knew? Sometimes he just cracks me up because he's a really good sleeper, and he's got beds all over the house. And he'll be like napping, and then he'll get excited because he's going to a new bed. So he'll just bound through the house, and he sometimes is that sort of Great Dane that you throw a ball and he just looks at it like what. And sometimes he'll just pounce on a toy. So he's very sweet. He's like a little human companion sometimes. I'll walk through the store and talking to him. Not only just sort of left here, right here. I was in the pharmacy the other day and sort of going up and down the aisles. I'm like, oh, we need birthday cards. So I'm turning, and the clerk sort of stood up and he's like, you got everything you need? And I'm like, oh yeah, we're good. And I continue talking to Tommy, and so I think he thought it was a little nuts, but he does know things. I mean, he senses things. He's actually really sensitive, like I said, to the tone of my voice. And he's a big dreamer when he sleeps. I've had dogs most of my adult life, and they'll do that sort of whoop whoop and chasing rabbits with their hands and feet. He does it quite a bit, and I think part of it is just he's reprocessing all that he's sensitive to. So I've really learned how to watch the tone of my voice when I'm around him. So anyway, there's lots of things that he knows that I don't know. From Aunt Mare, for Sir Thomas. Do you please give Renee a big lick and a hug? She is as beautiful as you are handsome. Oh, that's so sweet. Both of you are on the top of my mustard bird. He's kind of sleeping right now. But we'll get that hug in there. He's really not much of a kisser, but he is a hugger. From Flying Elk. Do you feel there's a social stigma against people who use service dogs to assist with a disability? Yeah, it's an interesting question because sometimes I'll be out at the market. There's actually one store I go to, sort of a little farmer's market, and the woman is convinced I'm training him. She loves when he comes in, and she's always commenting on, you know, how well he's doing. And I have had people sort of ask, "Oh, are you training him?" And sometimes I sort of, it's in passing and it's not enough time to sort of stop and explain. But yeah, and some are asking like, "Oh, how are you going to give him away after you're done training?" And it is occasionally it's like they're disappointed when I say, "Oh, he's my service dog." They're like, "Oh, I guess I'm not so, like, generous and altruistic as they had hoped." So sometimes I do get that sort of disappointment in their look, but I'm not sure it's a social stigma as much as they really wanted to think like really happy thoughts. So I usually tell them he's such a good boy, and it's usually my response to anybody who makes any kind of comment at all, is like, he's just such a good boy. So and I can't, just back to the disability thing, mine disability sometimes shows and sometimes doesn't. So I do feel sometimes that people may be looking like, what is that a fake one of those? Because what's she need that for? And other times it's pretty obvious. So even the times when it's pretty obvious, it's interesting what people will say or reach out and pet him while he's working. So I guess there's all sorts of reactions out there. From Michelle, when did I first realize that service dog would improve my life? Well, that first time that I saw the woman with the Great Dane from the Service Dog Project, yeah, like I said, it sort of stuck in the back of my mind. And I thought when I sort of finally came time to, make the get the application, meet the people at the Service Dog Project, follow through with the whole application process. I thought, oh, I'm doing this because I don't really need this right now, but it'll be really good to just get this started. Well, denial is strong. I needed him probably before I even applied, but he needs me too. No, crying. Just every day I'm amazed. He could be sound asleep. I won't do it now, but he could be sound asleep, and I'll need him, and I'll tell him I need him, and he will get up and come over. So it's great. Even though I'm crying, it's great. From Jennifer, what do you think we can do to help people combat the problem of people using counterfeit service dogs? It's funny, there was one person who posted that she was wearing a service dog t-shirt, and she was in the airport and saw a little service dog that probably wasn't, because it was yapping, and so she sort of stood up with her t-shirt and yawned and let everyone see that she sort of supported legitimate service dogs, and the woman sort of disappeared from that area of the airport. So that was kind of funny. Again, I think that knowledge is power, and so the more information we can get out there. When I encountered my first fake service dog, it was at the grocery store. Like I said, Tommy's a good shopper. And I didn't even know. I was walking up the aisle, aiming for the coffee, and stopped because the clerk was talking the shelves, and she said, "Oh, look, there's a big service dog there and a really little one up there." And I just stopped and sort of looked up at the front of the aisle. The woman's back was to me, but what I heard was this yapping, and I saw this like lunging coming out of the grocery cart. And I'm thinking, that's not a service dog. But I just sort of stood where I was and bought the coffee. And at one point she turned and saw me and my service dog, and the look on her face was, ooh, I've been outed. So I didn't see her again in the grocery store. But my reaction to that was so strong that I came home and I thought, okay, just getting angry isn't going to do anything. So I thought, it's education. So I decided to write a book. So, educate the children, and they're going to educate the adults. So I'm in the process of writing a children's book. The illustrator is a woman who uses a service dog, and so we're hoping that picture book might start getting kids reading about it and getting the adults reading with the kids and getting that information out there. Megan, hi Megan. Sending love to you and Tommy. You look great, and I see Tommy is working hard behind you. Yes, he is. Hi Megan. From Debbie, how does Sir Thomas act when he goes back to STP for a visit? Does he interact with the other dogs, or does he stay by your side? It's interesting because when I was first training with Tommy, and I would get the chance to take him off, take him in my car and leave campus, I was felt so special, and it still feels special, but I'd come back and he'd be like, "Ooh, I'm back with my buddies." And that turning point happened when I brought him back and he sort of got out of the car and then got back in. So that was interesting. But ever since then, ever since he's been home, we go back and he loves seeing Megan, unless Megan's got the toenail clipper. That's very scary. But it's not the same. He actually gets a little intimidated by the number of dogs, and he's given an opportunity, he'll go sort of sniff around and check things out, but he's back by my side. He used to like to play with Perry. Hopefully Perry will be feeling better soon. He's much better sort of one-on-one playing than with the whole group. So he sometimes gets a little nervous if there's a lot of them, but then he'll just sort of come by my side. So it's good to know that he goes back, loves Megan, but he wants to come back in the car and go home. So, from Carolyn, I have a taxi and just recently completed my application with SDP. What should I expect as I embark on this process? How do you prepare physically and mentally? Get ready for a little bit of a roller coaster, just emotionally, because it's everything from that. You're no longer in denial when you have this giant dog next to you with the sign on him that says, service dog, meaning AKA either you're training him or something's wrong with you. And it's everything from that to this, what I initially used to describe as sort of, you got this toddler and a date all rolled in one. So he'll go everywhere with you, and it's just great having him there. But at the same time, you always have to have those drool rags and poop bags, and so at times it's hard because you're taking care of an animal. It relies on you to take care of him, so you've got vet appointments and poop bags and big poop bags, and I have the car filled with all sorts of emergency, and he's got food, water, and extra leash. So it's just sort of all of the preparedness of just having a dog. There's also I always have something that he's going to be able to lie down on if I'm going to the doctor's office. So you're always thinking of the dog, but he's always thinking of you too. So it's sort of It's a two-way street. So, and then some of the preparation is just, it's sort of that toddler reference, that 24/7. You are together 24/7. Um, and it's an adjustment because we aren't with our spouses that much. We aren't with our kids that much. Um, and you'll definitely be stopped by people asking about the dog and commenting on the dog, and 99% of the time it's very positive and pleasant. Sometimes you get the edge in there. Sometimes you get the probably personal questions that you don't really want to ask, like, well, why do you have that dog? And sometimes they're just, so just sort of working your way through the multitudes of questions. Sometimes it's fun. One time I was out with my son, we were downtown, and he decided we had heard so many comments about, always a horse, always, what's his name? And he started keeping a tally of how many people commented on, that's a horse or a pony, how many commented on, what's his name, and how many commented on his size. And he had this huge tally by the time we were through one end of the town to the other. So, your life, you're not quite so private as you might used to have been. So, the catch is you'll be able to go out more in public, but you'll be more public, not in public. And good luck. I hope you have a happy match. Actually, someone talked about the match before, and I didn't answer that. The way they set up the match is probably a better question for Megan, but my experience with it was they have a certain number of dogs that are there at the, and ready at the time of my application, and of them, there's a whole height, weight thing, but then it's like they sort of, you pick each other, and it's kind of like when Tommy jumped in the car and, said, I'm coming with you, that sort of happened. And they're going to be trained specifically for what each person needs. They're all trained as mobility dogs, but then once the applicant has specific needs, then that training will become much more personal. So I hope that answers that question. From Molly's mom. Did Sir Thomas pick you when you first visited SCP? Did you know right away he was the one? When very first time I went to SCP, the first dog I saw was Lola as a puppy. Oh my gosh, she was the cutest puppy. But that wasn't the age that we were matched up. So Tommy was the right one. I remember Megan saying, he's such a good boy. That she just kept saying that. It's like, she was right. He's such a good boy. I have a whole box of cleaners. And it's funny because sometimes, I read about dogs who are very intuitive and they know exactly what their handler needs, and Tommy's not like that. He likes to sleep. But he will do anything I ask. He just wants to be a good boy. I mean, every time I get out his harness for going somewhere, he gets up and he eagerly sticks his head through and always wags his tail. He really just wants to be a good boy, and Megan was right. I don't know if you're still there, Megan, but you were right. From Gracie Bit. Have you ever noticed cues from Sir Thomas that were warnings? Say he isn't comfortable with someone who has approached, or he senses danger. Tommy's a bit of a weenie. We have this little sort of a joke now. It's toddler alert. He's very afraid of toddlers. He can tell when they're like 3 aisles down in the grocery store. And in some ways, I'm a little leery of them too. I've, got someone through the toddler age, but it's because, he doesn't know where they're going to land. Not quite sure where if they're going to come up from behind, and so I think that's part of his, so he'll start to tremble. And so I've sensed that now, and I used to think, oh, he's so scared of things. Windy days, really windy days. Well, I've learned, well, he can't hear on really windy days, so it sort of freaks him out because he's not quite sure, can't get his bearings. He's very afraid of walking on. I'm not going to change him. This is who he is. I'm a crier. He's a little nervous, so we're good with that. But yes, he does sense things, and he is. It's pretty clear when he's not feeling comfortable. Who are we? From Lee. Renee, are there any places you can't or won't go because of Sir Thomas's size? Occasionally, we'll go to a... From Lee. Renee, are there any places you can't or won't go because of Sir Thomas's size? I have some of my some exhibits in occasionally, and if I know it's going to be a crowded space, go to an opening. Art association is rather small space, so I'll just we'll say, you know what, let's just go in and go out, or so there'll be times when it's just really crowded and tight. I'll take my service husband, that's what I call him, and Tommy might get the evening off. But it's not so much anyone denying him access as I'll just be thinking of him, and he might be nervous, and he would do it, but sometimes it just give him the evening off. I do wish I could get him on my back on my bicycle, because that would be kind of fun. But so that's the only other place I don't take him. He's going to go for a bike ride. I love all dogs, so it's hard not to pet them. What is the etiquette for approaching a working dog? I have to say, on that question, not to even approach, unless you know the person and you're actually, interacting with the person. But it's not just the petting that's distracting, it's the staring in the comments, because they know when they're talked about. You can tell when a dog, you start saying their name, or you start talking that happy dog sort of tone of voice. They know. And so just the speaking to him, at him, about him, can be distracting enough. And it maybe helped to just sort of think of, we do an exercise that Lynn and I, when we do our public speaking and sort of advocacy for the service dogs, and we have a person, we sort of set people up in groups of 3, and one person, there's a chair, so one person has to hold on to the back of the chair, standing on one leg, so they're using the chair for support, so they're standing on one leg holding the chair. One person is the observer, the other person has to sort of come from across the room and see the chair and say, I need that chair, we need an extra chair for the dining room, or I need that chair, I was just going to, pull it up, so they go for the chair. They're going to get that chair, and they get to scoot the chair up or pick the chair up and go. Meanwhile, with the person who is standing on one leg holding the chair, he's probably going to tip over or hop, or so it's just a way for the people who don't have balance to just sort of experience what it's like for someone to come up to the dog. They see the dog like the chair. For us, that is our cane. It's way better than a cane because he's got a lot more personality, but it's like taking that cane away. So it's not the chair, it's a balance tool. It's not a dog. So if you think of it not as, it's not a dog, or it's not a pet dog, that might help. Hope that answers the question. Um, from Connecticut Doggy, when Sir Thomas has downtime, what is his favorite thing to do? You're looking at it. Tommy, want to say hello? Hi, buddy. Um, he loves. It's funny. People ask all the time. He's a big dog. He must have a huge yard, and he doesn't need a lot of space. He sort of does these rips through the yard doing these figure eights, and he'll go one way, and everyone sort of backs up, and then he'll go the other way, and then usually he's like, "Oh, done. Got that out of my system." So he goes on his figure eight rips. He loves to play with Willow. He's a really good sleeper. Yes, you are. He loves to go on walks, and I mean, he gets to be a dog. So all the dog things, he's got a room full of toys, and most of which are pelts because the squeakers get pulled out of him and stuffing gets pulled out. But he gets to be a dog. From Jennifer, what is the family's relationship like with Tommy? He's the dog when he's the dog, and he's my service dog when he needs to work. So he may have his sort of at-home harness on. I don't know if you can see it. Maybe we'll stand him up at some point. He usually has that on. And when I need him, my cue is, Tommy, I need you. And if he happens to be being pet by someone, I'll just sort of say, I need him right now, and that's the cue. I need him right now. Even my son, my 12-year-old son, knows that's like literally he'll be petting him and it's just hands off, and he knows. So initially he was very scared of my husband because he was a big tall man and he wasn't Megan. But enough little chicken treats on the side of his desk. For about 2 weeks, he loves my husband now. He goes to him sometimes, probably more often than me, for pets because oftentimes only one of my hands kind of works well, and he's got two hands that pet him. So, and he doesn't ask him to do anything for it. So, he loves us all. Hi. You want to come up? Can you come up? You want to sit up? Come on, hop up. You don't want to? Why do I have to? Can you come say hello? Can you at least open your eyes? Oh, there he is. Good boy. You're my good boy. You're my good boy. Carolyn's crying. Well, I think I'm not going to cry when Carolyn's saying she's crying. Thank you for your information. I hope my future holds a great match like you and Sir Thomas. I'm sure that it will. And I hope I meet you at one of maybe a Sunday stew. It's interesting because not many of the service dog providers continue the relationship. Some actually want to, probably for sort of privacy reasons. The only time you sort of go back to that service dog sort of provider trainer is for sort of annual checkup training and any kind of times that you might need a little tune up with the training. And I'm so happy that Service Dog Project is not that kind of place, because it's the whole community has just of recipients, not let alone people who support the Service Dog Project, but the community of recipients is just a whole community I wouldn't have known about, and it's just been wonderful. We can connect with each other, and we can share sort of stories and training things. So use that, Carolyn, if that's helpful to you. whether you're local or not. From Barbara. Does Tommy ever not want to do what you ask? Well, sometimes I have to call him twice. The funny thing is, I've always been this way. It's like, all right, it's time to go, and then I'm like, oops, I gotta do one more thing. Oops, I gotta do one more thing. He knows that now, so he doesn't get up the first time when I say it's time to go. So he doesn't get up till like the third time. So that's a habit that I've sort of gotten him into. Maybe initially I may have asked him to, like, oh, say hello to my friend, and my friend might have been a big tall man with a beard and a hat, and I know not, that he's going to be really sort of sensitive to that until he gets to know that person. So I don't think there's ever anything I would ask him to do now, because I know him well enough to know what's going to put him in a situation that he would be uncomfortable. And there isn't anything that I've needed him to do. There might be things that I need him to do, and I have to work on how I explain it to him. I might need him to, step a little bit closer for me to lean on him to get up. So I have to really talk to him, and when he wants, like I said, he's just such a good boy, and he really wants to try, and when he doesn't get it, you can tell he gets sort of like, I don't know what to do, and he'll just lie down. But it's not because he doesn't want to, it's because he doesn't understand. So it's up to me to sort of make those instances more clear. From Rhonda, do you have any more public speaking engagements lined up anytime soon? Yes, we have. We're speaking to a rehabilitation hospital staff at it's a in-service, and we're going through the process of, it's mostly occupational physical speech therapists, and we'll be going through the process of being matched with the service dog, talking a little bit about where their help, a therapist might come from the point of view of, you should be balancing on your own and getting, it should be stronger instead of using the dog. So we're going to come from that angle too, of where that is a plus, not a minus. And we also are speaking at a regional conference for the American Parkinson's Disease Association about service dogs and Parkinson's, and is there a match? I've given this talk before at the World Parkinson Congress that took place last year in Montreal. So, and we have another hospital, I think, lined up, talking to doctors. That's its own whole little piece I'm learning. Often doctors are signing off on prescribing a service dog when they don't actually may not know the law, and so they're signing off on service dogs for people who don't necessarily have a disability that needs a service dog. So they're sort of, without knowing it, they're sort of perpetuating this service dog fraud. So we've got sort of things lined up at hospitals to start, educating that whole area too. And question from It's a Wonder. You mentioned that sometimes you use your service husband. How does Tommy react if you have to leave him behind? I worked on that very carefully. I didn't leave him behind for the first 6 months ever. And then it's sort of like, at what point do you let your kids sort of stay home alone? And it's like, you just sort of start out for that, 10 minutes when he's 12 or, so I waited, not until Tommy was completely comfortable with all of us. And, there are times, when he might be left. I don't leave him for more than an hour and a half. And what he usually does now is just sleep. So if he knows I'm there, like I'm just out in the garage, he's like he's so excited when I come back in. It's like, where were you? Or sometimes he'll be sleeping and he didn't hear me get up and go to the next room. Or when I called him, he didn't wake up. He'll wake up like, oh, where is she? So he really likes to be wherever I am. But when I explain that I'm going to be right back and he gets a cookie, he usually goes and sleeps. His favorite thing. But he's so good at it. From Kate, do you wish you applied sooner for Tommy? What advice would you give to a person with balance issues on applying for a dog? P.S. You're an amazing team and thank you in advance. Oh, thank you. That's very sweet. No, I think my timing was probably just right for me. There are times when, like I said, people will ask me if I'm training, and those are my on times. But with the nature of Parkinson's, the on times are not predictable. And we've been together for 2 years. I'm still learning things. We're still learning how to work together sometimes. I mean, it probably took the whole first at least 9 months, if not a year, to sort of be through every situation that you're going to encounter, whether it's an airplane, everything that's involved with a flight and a trip, to conferences, to it could be a local concert. And we went to a local concert recently, my husband and I, with summer, and brought Tommy along, and it was just one of those little chamber music in a church. It was a beautiful old stone church. We got there early, and even just the little things about when do you have to get there early and give him time to acclimate, and when you don't. Some of it's still learning. So here we are in this lovely old stone church. Had my pad for him, and he got all comfortable. Well, in those old stone churches, the pews are sort of the flat seat bench, and then the seat back, and that little space in between where someone's sitting in front of you. We took a row where it was empty in front of us at first, but we were early. And then 3 women sat down. And they sat down, and it just happened to be when Tommy lifted his head up, their behinds were exactly where his nose was. It's like, you can't prepare for that. There's nothing, it's like, oh. So he was very good, and he kept sort of getting his nose down. And in intermission, they turned around, didn't even know. They were surprised, didn't even know a dog was there. So it worked. But, there's all sorts of training and things that we're doing throughout. So I think we got him. I think I was matched up with him exactly when I needed him. And I think I will forever be training each other. From Heather. Did you ever think when you got Sir Thomas that he and you would become celebrities? Not a chance. I had no idea. And the funniest was, I was walking downtown. My husband and I went on a walk, and Tommy was with me. And it was a Sunday afternoon. I remember it was sort of wintry, so, maybe November or something. And got back and started hanging out, and I noticed someone had posted on Facebook that they saw Sir Thomas. I'm like, wow, really? And so I thought, it's like, when you get to know friends, and you sometimes know the dog's name and not the person's name. So everyone knows Tommy. I'm usually the person with the big dog. But he is a celebrity. He's such a handsome, good boy. From Lurkaloo, my brother-in-law, who also has PD, saw you at the World Parkinson Conference. Oh, good. I thoroughly enjoyed your presentation. Well, thank you. If he happens to be at the conference in early November, I'll say hello again. And that whole poster that we gave, the presentation is actually on my website. It's downloadable, and all the The slides are there if anyone wants to take a look at that. He had a big day today with the presentation at the Innkeepers Association. So, from Shalani's, since moving to Florida, we have come into an issue with people not leashing their dogs. There have been several occasions where I'm walking with my dog, and another dog runs at us. Has this happened to you, and how do you respond? That's interesting. I've had several kinds of responses to that. Depending on just let me say, it drives me nuts. Just there's a whole dog sort of interaction with the leashed and the non-leashed, whether they're service dogs or not. So that alone is an issue for me. But I was walking, one time I was walking, just dropped my son off for his music lesson, decided to take a walk. I'm walking down the street, and these two dogs just come barreling from their front porch across the lawn. Clearly they had some kind of invisible fence that either wasn't on or they didn't care, because they came right across the lawn. And it's like you have no idea what there's no one around, no owner. I put Tommy in a downstay, picked up a stick and waved it at them and screamed, "Go back home, back off, back home." So here's my dog on the leash, not attached to me anymore, in his downstay while I'm screaming at these two dogs, which finally cowered the other way. So I've done everything from, protective mother duck there to, what I often do is, I'll put Tommy in a down, and I'll just stand there if the owner is around and request them to, leash their dog or remove their dog. It's dangerous when I'm not able to actually put him into a downstay. I need him. I'll talk to him the whole time, and again, it's that I don't want to raise my voice too much because I don't want to upset Tommy, but I need to, let the person with the unleashed dog know that this is completely unsafe. So that's a hard one. I'm never take Tommy to anything like a dog park or any of those dog dog food, dog supply places where they let your pets in. No, yeah. So I hope that you don't run into that very often because it's very unsafe. So I guess I use my voice more than anything. From Zizzy, Connecticut. Would you ever consider being an exhibitor at animal events? I recently attended an animal awareness event and thought what a great platform this would be for educating people. I guess I'm not sure what animal events are, and I consider anything but he had a hard day. He's a good boy. And I just want to say that when Tommy and I were matched up, and this is such an honor to be sort of the first of this series with Explore, because I feel like I was the first one, because when Tommy and I were matched up was just when the cameras were going into the Service Dog Project. And I remember waving up to the Leaf camera, not knowing it didn't work yet. And think, Tommy and his litter was sort of missed out on people sort of seeing him and recognizing him, because that was the sort of turning point before the cameras came in. But I'm so happy that they came in and that there's so many people that support it. And there's so many people that sort of are learning about it and supporting those of us who are the fortunate recipients of these wonderful creatures. I wasn't going to cry again. Um, but so I thank you very much for allowing me to sort of talk about Tommy. He's such a good boy. I don't know if my computer faded or if we're. So thank you for your support.